Charles II of Spain, the final monarch of the Spanish Habsburg dynasty, a man whose life was a tragic and horrifying testament to the devastating effects of centuries of royal inbreeding. It may not have been immediately obvious, but upon closer inspection, it quickly becomes clear that Charles II's demise was nothing short of horrific. But what happened to the last Habsburg king, and why did his death bring an end to the Spanish Habsburg line? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the absolutely harrowing final days of Charles II of Spain. Join us as we take a deep dive into the life and terrifying death of one of history's most tragic figures. But before we begin, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. When Charles II was born on November 29, 1661, his arrival into this world was greeted with great fanfare and celebration. He was the first legitimate son of King Philip IV and his own niece, Mariana of Austria, a union that was the culmination of more than a century of marrying within the family. However, behind the scenes, there was cause for grave concern. As the child grew, it became apparent that he was not like other children. He was unable to walk or talk until he was nearly 5 years old and was known for his extreme frailty. He was physically disfigured by the famous Habsburg jaw, a severe prognathism that made it difficult for him to chew and caused him to drool uncontrollably. His mental development was also severely stunted. He was intellectually challenged and described by many contemporaries as being simple-minded and easily manipulated. Despite his physical and mental state, he was crowned king at the age of 4, becoming a pawn in the fierce power struggles of his court. His reign was marked by political and economic decline as Spain's vast empire crumbled around him, and the weak king was unable to stop it. His primary royal duty was to produce an heir, and he was married twice, but both unions were childless, a final, tragic sign of his family's genetic collapse. As the years passed, Charles II's health began to deteriorate at a rapid and terrifying pace. He suffered from severe epilepsy, convulsions, and intense pain, his body convulsing violently and uncontrollably. Those who saw him during these episodes described him as a living corpse, a ghastly sight that haunted the nightmares of his court. His condition was so bad that he required a team of 24 men to help lift him from his bed and chair. He was constantly wet and soiled himself, and drooled to such an extent that he had to be fed through a tube. His room reportedly smelled so horribly of stale waste that visitors were often overcome with nausea and had to be carried out unconscious. Charles II became increasingly withdrawn and reclusive, spending most of his time alone in his bedroom. His counselors and courtiers were baffled by his strange behavior and could not understand what was happening to him. Many believed that the king was mad and that his mind had been unhinged by the pressures of the crown. Others whispered that he was possessed by demons and needed to be exorcised. In a desperate attempt to help their king, Charles II's doctors prescribed a number of bizarre and painful treatments, including bloodletting, blistering, and the application of leeches. But none of these remedies worked, and the king's condition continued to worsen. Charles II began to suffer from severe hallucinations and paranoia. He believed that his food was being poisoned, that his attendants were plotting against him, and that demons were trying to enter his body. He demanded that his rooms be filled with holy water, and that priests perform exorcisms on him daily. But even this did not stop the terrifying visions that plagued his waking hours. In a disturbing display of his deteriorating mental state, Charles II started talking to himself in a strange, guttural language that nobody could understand. He would pace back and forth in his rooms for hours on end, mumbling and growling as if in great pain. His counselors became increasingly concerned about his fitness to rule and began to argue amongst themselves about what should be done. Some wanted to keep the king hidden away in his chambers and carry on governing in his name. Others believed that he was too far gone and that Spain needed a new monarch. While the court argued over the king's future, Charles II's health continued to deteriorate. He became more and more gaunt, his skin stretched tight over his bones, and his eyes sunk deep into his head. He was no longer able to leave his bed and was completely dependent on his attendants for his basic needs. As the end drew near, Charles II's torment became unbearable. He cried out in pain and agony, begging for relief that never came. His body convulsed violently, racked by tremors that shook his entire frame. Then, in a final, morbid act, he reportedly had the coffins of his Habsburg ancestors opened and to have looked at their rotting bodies. Perhaps he was searching for answers about his own fate, or maybe he just wanted to see what lay ahead of him. Either way, this disturbing episode is the stuff of nightmares and a chilling reminder of the lengths to which the obsessed can go. In his final days, Charles II was plagued by insomnia and a profound sense of anguish. He knew that he was the last of his line and that his death would throw his kingdom into chaos. He had no legitimate heirs, and his only living relative was his sister, Mary, who was a nun. As he lay dying, he reportedly told his counselors that he felt like a mouse trapped in a cage, unable to escape his fate. His body, which was already in a state of decay, began to swell to an immense size, his stomach growing so large that it was the size of a pumpkin. His face became grotesquely swollen and discolored, his eyes bulging and his skin stretched taut over his skull. On November 1st, 1700, at the age of 38, Charles II died. The Spanish Habsburg line ended with him, a final, chilling conclusion to their obsession with blood purity. His will, which named a French heir, sparked the War of the Spanish Succession, a bloody conflict that consumed Europe for over a decade. When his remains were examined after his death, they revealed a litany of ailments. His heart was the size of a peppercorn, and he had a single-chambered lung, along with other severe internal deformities. The once mighty Habsburg dynasty had come to an end, felled by its own hubris and the dark side of human obsession. Charles II's story is a powerful and grim reminder that a lineage can be destroyed from within by a self-destructive obsession with preserving it. His story is also a human tragedy. A man born to be a king, but cursed with a body that was a walking testament to the horrors of royal inbreeding. The terrifying final days of Charles II stand as a final macabre act in the history of a great dynasty. The death of the last Habsburg king is a tale that has been passed down through the ages, a warning to those who might be tempted to follow in the footsteps of those who came before. A macabre spectacle of human suffering, Charles II's death was a fitting end to a reign marked by disease and decline. What are your thoughts on the Habsburg dynasty? Do you think that Charles II's death was a result of his family's obsession with preserving their bloodline, or do you believe that there were other factors at play? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.